Who wants to take it?
SEC case versus Richard gets dismissed. For, I guess, anybody that's seen me on this stream or anywhere else, yeah, I follow this one pretty closely. Unfortunately, right now we still have no updates on it, but I do believe that the likelihood of it getting dismissed probably closer to a coin toss. But then there's actually some outside factors that might help get there as well, outside of just the motion to dismiss being granted. But Paul Atkins is slated to be appointed as the new SEC chair. He does have to get confirmed by the Senate, which he's not on the docket just yet, but he was formally submitted to the Senate for appointment there. As part of his supposed leadership of the SEC, they're going to be taking a look at the existing cases and determining what's worth pursuing, what actually is just the SEC got too far out over their skis with Gary Gensler. And then if there's anything that they can reasonably settle, I imagine they will. So chances are very good for this. The timeline, though, is the big question right now.
And in my opinion, it practically has to be dismissed just because of, I don't know if it was an executive order that Trump signed, but they introduced something regarding cryptocurrency saying, hey, you need to let people deploy blockchains without being punished for doing so.
For sure. So let me see if I can pull up the thing that you're referencing here. It is the executive order that was signed on the 23rd. I believe we covered it last time I was on here. There's that, and there's also a video from David Sachs. Those two are the most bullish signs for this particular item, which is that David Sachs is a fantastic 6-minute interview with Fox Business, and he talks about a lot of this stuff. And one of the things that he talks about is the idea that cryptocurrencies are not just blanket securities as much as Gary Gensler would like them to be. And in fact, there's a lot of different categories. Some of them are securities, no doubt, but largely there's a lot of different categories that he believes in and believe that they can be sorted into. So if David Sachs, the crypto czar, is saying that, I imagine that's going to have some sort of impact on the rest of the crypto gang, whether they're at the SEC, the FCDC, or any of the other regulatory bodies.
Yeah, so the other day when we talked about, we had Nuclear Herb, shout out to Nuclear Herbs. He, Zenith and we were all talking about the timelines, how the executive orders up and all that stuff too. 30 days, 60 days, 180 days. Some of these things take effect or in different ways with that too. Do you all think that in the next, is it going to be sooner rather than later? I know we keep holding our breath. I know Auntie Carol, we're coming up on 90, we're coming up on 60, or we passed 60 days, we're coming up on 90 now. What's the feeling?
Just for reference, this is the executive order that we were discussing previously, strengthening American leadership in digital financial technology. Again, just as a quick reminder for the folks at home, this section here, section 1, subsection 1, this is the one people are talking about, promoting and protecting and promoting the ability of individual citizens and private sector entities alike to access and use for lawful purposes open public blockchain networks without persecution. That right there is the key thing that people have been latching on to. As far as your question, Max, though, of the timeline, I think, unfortunately, the timeline is going to get a little dragged out than we'd like because there's a lot bigger priorities on the current administration's wish list than this one. Obviously, this is very important. Donald Trump has been making good on a lot of different promises, such as pardoning Ross Ulbricht, or commuting a sentence, I believe is the technical term for it. But there are a lot bigger fish to fry for the Trump administration. This is an important one for sure. They've demonstrated that by the executive order that came out on the third day of his presidency, and also the appointment of the crypto czar, very good crypto folks in high places like Paul Atkins at the SEC, and some other folks. So there will be some patience here, unfortunately, as much as we would love for this to get settled so we can just pump to the moon immediately. But realistically, this stuff moves slow.
Well, on that point too, I mean, that is a common sentiment of this thing, PulseChain will pump once this thing happens. Can you just, why? Why is that the case? Like, why is that an anchor that on the ecosystem?
The reason being is that, if you just go look at the chart, on July 31st, 2023, when the SEC dropped their formal complaint for Richard Hart and the PulseChain ecosystem, including PulseX and Hex, you can see it dumped about 70% that day, and then ever since then has really struggled. There was a good run up in March of 2024, but outside of that, we continued to dump back down up until the most recent run up that we had. And we're having a little bit of a correction in my personal opinion, but it's very obvious that you can pinpoint to the exact day and probably to the exact hour that it gets released the effect that the SEC has had. Because of that, people have also been hanging their hat on the argument that the SEC's investigating, I don't want to get involved. So Hex gets pulled from Uniswap, PulseChain, PulseX, and Hex are not getting listed on centralized exchanges. And then a lot of people are just kind of down on it and not willing to. It's the folks that are unwilling to do the research just because there's a million things to research, and this is just not something that makes their priority list. It's that kind of a headline-ism, if you will, which just prevents people from getting into it. So once that giant rain cloud is cleared, they have no more obstacles to look into it. And then it should also improve sentiment. Humans are emotional creatures, unfortunately, and hopefully that will help give people some confidence about parking their money over here.
Zenith, I'll also ask you your thoughts on if you think that the new administration, the kind of Trump administration coming in, is having any effect on, or a potential, I don't know if it's a delay or if it's just the time it's taken for the judge to make her decision, if she's waiting for any new information to come out, because I've seen some stuff surrounding that as well, but I don't know if you have any thoughts on that as well. So
realistically, Judge Carroll, she is an independent actor inside of the judicial system. Any judgment she comes to is going to be her own and most likely not factored by outside influence, because at the end of the day, the only way to get rid of her is if she chooses to step down on her own volition or she's impeached. And come on, when was the last time you actually found a federal judge impeached, especially one with a good track record and looks like who's doing good work like she is? So because of that, the only thing that might potentially actually affect her ruling is the potential legalization or turning of law that exists that it is being charged now. So it's kind of like the classic thing where people used to have marijuana possession charges, and then when some states start legalizing these marijuana charges, all the people who had those open cases on the books, the judge kind of just dropped the charges, dismissed them, said, yeah, we're not going to enforce old law that's no longer applicable on these people because that just doesn't make sense. So it could be something like that when it comes to securities law or the actual judgment of how cryptocurrency fits into old securities law. That's the only thing, in my opinion, that would do that. But as far as the administration, they really can't apply pressure in any way, and it would be very unwise to try to pressure federal judges. That is usually where you get the corruption word thrown at you.
Yeah, let's win the right way.
I think Judge Carroll might go on X and see everyone calling her Auntie Carroll, and she's going to find that very endearing, and she's going to drop the case.
Are you talking about love bombing ourselves to a win?
That's
exactly.
That is a prediction. I'm okay with that. Before we wrap up each one, does anyone agree, or I guess anyone disagree with 12 to 18 months with this particular prediction? SET case versus Richard gets dismissed, and any caveats?
The unfortunate thing is that 12 to 18 months is a very realistic timeline. If it takes more than 12 months, though, odds are we're going to miss the bull market.
And I don't think from the panel.
Prove me wrong. Please. Tell me I'm wrong. But that's just the way I'm seeing it.
I think you're wrong. I don't think we're going to miss it. I don't think we're going to miss it, period. Just because there's a giant sack of cash hanging above the PulseChain that could just drop onto it at any time. And quite frankly, I don't think any of these legal matters really make much of a difference. If anything, it's going to make his legal case better because he's going to be shown providing liquidity. Someone provided liquidity, but I just don't think, no matter what, I don't think we're going to miss the bull run. I think it's going to happen no matter what.